Welcome to another episode of the Harder to Breathe podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dusick. I was the founding drummer of Maroon 5, but I'm now a licensed therapist, author, and mental health advocate. On our show today is Shira Lazar. She's the founder and host of What's Trending, and she's now gotten into the world of mental health as well with Creators for Mental Health. And she's just a really interesting person with a lot of great insights about the tech world, about where we're at and where we're going with that, and trying to maintain some sanity and mental health in the process. With me, as always, is my co-host, Duck Maylard. How you doing, Duck?
Good, man. It was fun to see you. Well, I don't know if fun is the right word, but it was interesting to see how much anxiety tech and AI and things causes in you, and be able to have that conversation with Shira today. Yeah, I'm good now. I haven't been good the last week or two. I had it wasn't a panic attack, but I was close to like going down a spiral a couple weeks ago. I had a lot of things going on, some family stuff, and like it was just starting to overwhelm me. And I was at an end of school event for my son sitting with my wife, and I was just like, my wife said, "Are you okay?" I'm going, "Yeah, I feel it. I feel it coming on, and I know what I need to do to kind of the stuff we've talked about, the somatic work and like breath. It was a lot. And it was the first time in a while that I'd felt that kind of overwhelming sense of like, I don't know if I can keep this under control, which I did. So I'm happy about that, but it wasn't fun for the time that I was going through it.
So is this stuff personal stuff, or is it
personal stuff, career stuff, world stuff? I think that was the thing, is that it was all of it. It was kind of, I've got
intersection.
I've got some, my family's got some health things going on, which is always scary. My own health, which is a constant, adventure. The end of the school year for my son, work that isn't happening for me. And I think it was all just boiling to a head at that moment. And, like I said, I don't know if there's something to be said. The fact that we were at a school concert and I was in an auditorium and seeing a performance, kind of one of my old triggers of my own anxiety that maybe there's more to read into it, but it definitely manifested in that moment. And I remember thinking in that moment, like, okay, you haven't felt this way in a while. Let's see how your body and your mind responds to it. And like I said, I'm proud of the way I did sort of work through it, but it definitely was like, my old friend anxiety.
Yeah, I've been experiencing some anxiety of late as well. It's an interesting thing, and we get into it in this episode in our conversation, because for the first time in a while, it's not really personal stuff. Yeah. It's really more just the state of the
external world. Yeah.
And how we're navigating the present and the potential futures that we can imagine might be scary. And some of it's like, is it anxiety if it's legitimate logical fears, and how much is, if we're just putting a happy spin on some of this stuff, is it just kind of burying your head in the sand and pretending like it's not happening?
Right.
But, we've got riots going on and the National Guard coming in LA. And now Marines. That's a whole other conversation we can get into, but it's just scary. The potential outcomes of that, how we've gotten to that place right now, and the larger picture of, as we do get into this conversation, the nature of our communication and our culture, and how toxic that has become, and how it's bred this kind of fear and resentment, and the ways in which we're engaging with government and with each other, and with, it's getting harder and harder as we breathe.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, there's a reason why we call the show Harder to Breathe. True. Is because, but we've mostly just been talking about how we as individuals navigate
inside out.
And it's getting harder and harder to ignore the things that we're all struggling with on a societal level, that is, whether it's a cause or an effect, the things that are driving the kind of either disengagement or contentiousness or anger and resentment, or the effect of it's like a bi-directional relationship, a loop that we're stuck in now, where those challenges are creating the conditions which then make us more anxious and engage in more toxic ways. And so how do we as individuals and as a society engage in a more healthy way? I think these are conversations that are going to have to be a part of what we do more regularly. And it's a minefield in some ways to do it in a way that's productive and not just feeding into the toxicity of the culture that we've created. But then at the same time, not running away from things that are scary and controversial and that bring, can be triggers for people. So that's, forgetting even just the show for the moment, it's like that sort of existential dread comes up for me when I think about those things.
It's an interesting discussion of when does anxiety cease to be, this sort of personal struggle. And, if someone has a gun to your head, is that anxiety that you're feeling, or is that fear, and that's completely justified. Yeah. I think a lot of times we talk about anxiety and mental health as a whole as sort of like this deficiency or something that's wrong with us that we're trying to fix or get rid of. And so many times you've said, like, that fight or flight response is there for a reason.
Yeah.
And so if our bodies are, if you're feeling it more in the world and I'm feeling it, and it's not a coincidence that these external factors are contributing to that. And it's not all, well, because my mom didn't say she loved me enough when I was a kid,
right.
Which she did, by the way. Mom, I love you. You said it. But, maybe that's not the reason I'm feeling that way. It isn't all Freudian. Maybe it's these very real existential threats.
And those are the biggest challenges in therapy. I think, the impulse, no matter how good a therapist you are, is when somebody comes to you with an issue is to like, well, I'm going to figure out this problem and find a solution.
Yeah.
Even if most of the time, the first step should be just have compassion, just hold space for someone that's struggling with something. But then every now and then somebody brings something to the table that is like, I can't say you're off base with this.
You should be scared of that.
Yeah, or I'm feeling that too, you know? And then in that moment, it's like you have to go like, well, maybe the best thing I can do is share my own anxiety about this. And it normalizes in terms of we're both going through this.
Yeah.
This isn't disordered. This isn't dysfunction. Right. This is a legitimate concern. How do we navigate this together? Maybe there's not a quote unquote solution, but there is a way to engage in a way that's more healthful for us to walk through something difficult.
And it's also a sliding scale in that what's frightening to me might not be frightening to you, and vice versa. I love getting up in front of a crowd and speaking,
right?
And that causes anxiety in you. Whereas, if you had a job, if you were a police officer, I'd be terrified of being like, I couldn't go out there and maybe every traffic stop could be somebody with a gun. You know what I mean? And so managing and mitigating that anxiety and that fear, it's a sliding scale depending on who you're dealing with and what their personal experiences are. So that's going to be tough as a therapist to sort of to be able to kind of curate your treatment depending on, if someone's afraid of walking out the door and agoraphobia, it's different than someone who's like, I'm afraid to strap on the gun and the badge every day.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well, I actually I'm not as anxious about speaking in front of people as I used to be. I've been doing it a lot. Sometimes it comes up out of nowhere again. It's like you have as you've mentioned, like you have this old anxiety that just comes up. The most recent time I did it, I almost felt no anxiety.
That's great.
Granted, it was at a podium and
I
had teleprompters. And I didn't have to hold a mic with my hand. As I've mentioned to you, I don't know if I said this on camera, but if you eliminate that element, just having to hold the mic, it is so much less stressful for me. Like, I know that I can talk, but I have trauma from using my hands on stage.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
And so the idea that people are watching me do something with my hands on stage, like even just like opening up a water bottle and taking a drink of it, like I'm worried my hands are going to shake or something weird's going to happen. It's like, this is what I got my drinking problem. Yeah.
It's funny. That reminds me of, I don't get it as much anymore, but when I used to do musical theater auditions, you kind of have to stand in front of this table of people in an empty room, and you get this thing called sewing machine leg, where if your weight is only on one leg, the other leg bounces, and you're like, if I put my weight on this leg, my whole body's gonna. So then you get in your head about it, and it's such an interesting like physical response to that anxiety that your body starts to tremor or whatever it is.
Yeah, and then once it happens, then your mind goes there. That's what happens for me more than anything, is that now I'm distracted and I'm focusing on that more than I am on what I'm saying. Yeah. And then you worry, I'm going to lose track of what I'm saying or something because I'm like, all I can think about right now is my leg or my hand or whatever. And I'm sure that everyone experiences that to a certain extent, but when you're a little bit obsessive compulsive, and you have a tendency to overthink or fixate on things, then it becomes like a thought loop.
Right. Well, being in your head is, that's especially as artists, the goal is to get out of your head and get into your heart and really let it flow. And you said something to me this weekend that's actually I wanted to bring it up because it was such a really great thing. We play softball together.
Right.
and I was playing a somewhat suspect third base. I just couldn't. I kept making errors, and I finally fielded a ball cleanly, and then I made a throwing error, and it was in my head. And you said something to me that your father had said to you that I'd love to have you say here, because I think it was really cool, and it took me right out of the place that I was and where I needed to be. What was that? What did you say to me?
Well, I think as an athlete, excelled at baseball in particular. I was an athletic kid, but for whatever reason on the pitching mound, I felt a lot of confidence. But in general, as a person, I'm not like a cocky person by nature. I'm not somebody who naturally occupies a space of like strutting my stuff and like I'm gonna dominate this space. Even if I have the skill set that is at a high level, which I think I do as a baseball player, and especially the game we play on Sunday mornings, it's not that
we're almost the youngest guys by 20 years.
I mean, there's some really good athletes out there, but we're in our 40s and there's a lot of guys in their 60s and 70s out there. But every now and then I'll slip into a funk and I'll kind of go into a slump, whether it's hitting or fielding. Like I'll get the yips, and I've made it through a few throwing errors or whatever. And that'll get in my head, and I'll get into like this pattern of just like, I'm not playing like I normally do. And my dad will come to me in those instances. Even at 78, he still has, he wants to give me fatherly advice, which is a lot of the time the other way around these days. He'll come to me for advice. But in those instances, it's like I'm 12 years old again on the ball field, and he's the coach. And he'll say, you know what? You're playing with a question mark. Play with an exclamation point. And just that phrase is so like right to the point of, it's like the second that I'm questioning myself and I'm getting in my head and doubting, like, it's like, I know I have the skills to field a ball and throw it. I know I have the skills to hit a ball hard, and maybe not every time it's going to be a hit, but I know I could do it.
Right.
The only reason why I'm in a slump is because something has broken down in my mechanics or in my thought process, in my confidence. And when I feel confident and when I feel like I'm as good as anyone out here, I can come out into space and dominate, that's when I execute best. Yeah. And so it's just exclamation point. I want the ball to come to me so I can show how well I can throw. I want you to pitch me a tough inside pitch so I can turn on it down the line and show I have got good bat speed and mechanics, whatever. When you have that attitude, like, it's not going to work out every time, but it's going to work out more because you're coming from a place of exclamation rather than question.
It's funny that you say it's not going to work every time, because it isn't a catch-all, like, because there are times when question is the way to go. You want to be open and receptive to, I'm not the expert in this situation. Right. And if I walk in, as we've seen with people who don't know everything but act like they do, chaos ensues, But as an actor in my career, walking in with an exclamation point is the absolute way to go, because you might be making the wrong choice. You might be wrong for the character. But if you walk in there with confidence and make a strong choice, at least the people go, well, he wasn't wishy-washy. It's not right for what we're looking for, but he didn't try to like be everything to everybody. He made a specific choice and went for it. And we respect that. And in baseball, in life, in business, there are places where that is an absolute necessity. And it was really helpful in the moment. And I thank you and thank Kenny for it. Yeah. But it's really helpful as a reminder all the time of like, sometimes if you're feeling unsure about something, the best way is just make a choice and stick to it. It might be wrong. It might not work out, but at least you went for it. At least you made a choice.
And it's weird how it works out, because I don't know if it's just baseball or all sports, but even just something as simple as fielding a ground ball, we know because we've played enough, like if you let the ball play you as opposed to you playing the ball, you're at a disadvantage because now you're reacting as opposed to cutting down the ball quicker and getting on the short hop or whatever. And I don't know if there's something in the physics of it or it's just confidence, but like when the ball is hit at me, if I'm like, I got to go get that ball, and I'm like, as opposed to, I have to field this ball. It's such a huge difference. Like the outcome is a lot better usually if I'm playing with an exclamation point. Yeah.
It works for me in golf too. And I'm not a great golfer, but when I do take the time to go, strike this ball confidently. Don't go, I hope this gets up in the air. I hope I don't get in the, nope. I know where this is going and I strike it confidently. Even if I make the mistake, I go, but I hit it the way I wanted. It got a weird bounce, but there's just something about that, like, commit to what you're doing wholeheartedly. Don't have 20% doubt, and you're going to see a lot more success.
I think that's been the difference maker as a speaker as well for me, because now I'm at a place where I'm like, I know that when I get up here and speak with confidence, people respond well to it.
Yeah.
And so if I really dedicate myself to that craft, and it's like, with this last one, I wrote out a script and I worked on it a bit and I practiced it. Once I got up there, it was like, what you're going to say, and it's effective, and if you deliver it with confidence, it's going to have an impact. So it's like, lean into it.
There's nothing left to chance at this point.
Don't question whether or not you're good enough, or it's just like, if you're up there like, I want to share some thoughts, as opposed to like, I'm going to share a thought and it's going to impact you. It's going to, and you have that thought process, and it will, you manifest it.
Well, it impacted me, like I said, so I appreciate it. And thank you to Kenny as well for passing that wisdom down.
Yeah, you're welcome. So on a side note, we haven't even mentioned it. Shira didn't even notice it. It's a very small, I suppose, frivolous thing, but can anyone even tell about my eye?
I don't know. Ryan's got some weird eye thing going on.
I mentioned just because, people are going to watch this, and if somebody does notice, I'm like, maybe I should just say something about it. I debated putting on sunglasses, but it's not as bad as it was a couple days ago. I don't even know what happened exactly. I just woke up and I had this weird little kind of twinge in my eye, and then the next day it got worse, and then all of a sudden my whole eyelid was swollen up. And I was like, I ended up not going to my high school reunion because of it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
I don't know. I mean, I had mixed feelings about it to begin with, and maybe it was too vain to but I didn't know if it was like pink eye, and if it was contagious. I just felt it was better to stay home. But, I don't know. We were talking about this, and you're like, what are you going to do? Are you going to wear sunglasses?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's an issue, but I'm sorry you missed your reunion for that. That sucks.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it would have been nice to go. I mean, I'm not losing sleep over it, but yeah, it does kind of suck.
They happen every 5 years, so.
But these are the things that really matter, right? My eye was swollen.
Yeah.
And with everything going on in the world, that's what I should.
That's what we should focus on. So, yeah.
All right. So you want to?
As always, if you're watching this and you're enjoying what we're watching, please like and subscribe to the show. We'd love to have you as a part of the community on Instagram, on YouTube, on all the social media platforms, TikTok, and then also audio platforms where the show is available. Get involved in the conversation. Ask us some questions. Contact us at hardertobreathepodcast@gmail.com, and be a part of the movement of making conversations about mental health less awkward and less scary for everybody. That's what we're trying to do.
All right. Without any further ado, here's our conversation with Shira Lazar right here on the Harder to Breathe podcast. Shira Lazar, welcome to the Harder to Breathe podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is awesome. I haven't been in person at a podcast in a while.
Well, welcome. I mean, we haven't done this, I feel like, in a few weeks.
But it's always my favorite to do it in person. You get to talk face to face and see people. Yeah,
it's a trek to do it because of the flow. I get in this flow of working at home, and then I have to be like, I have to get in my car, get dressed, like a whole thing.
Well, from the content that I see you posting online, and from running into you in like every event around town, it seems to me you are like the busiest person I know. Is that true? No.
Come on, no. It's funny because I have moments of busyness, like weeks, and then there are weeks where I'm not. So I always tell that to people, like, yeah, it's also, that's social media for you. Perception of that. But I guess I have a busy schedule because I try to be in places that are relevant, where I feel people are. I work a lot with brands, creators, et cetera, and I'm always learning. I mean, that's how I stay connected, is through going to these events. It's how I connect with my community. And it happens that there's a lot of them.
But something like this, I mean, jokes aside, it gives us an opportunity, like a reason to get out of the house.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. Beyond these events, I find one-on-one, though, a lot of times it becomes a lot of work. This sounds really bad to say, where if it's for work, I feel like, okay, I can make an excuse to leave and do it. So that's so bad that I am so work oriented, I guess, because then if someone wants to have like lunch or happy hour or this or that, if it's a friend that I've known for a long time, yes, I will make that happen. These days, if it's just someone I've met, like, I still want to get to know you, but I know how stressful it's going to be for me to get to places. Then is it worth the stress? Because it is, for some reason, is that crazy? It's stressful
I
sometimes.
think we're all in that place
like
now.
Time manage and get out of your flow. And sometimes it's like 2 to 3 hours driving.
Right. Well, especially in LA. That's kind of...
Yes. I think it's an LA thing. Yeah.
Right.
Everywhere in LA is no longer 20 minutes.
No.
If I was in DC or Montreal, where I'm from, everything's like 15, 20.
Well, I met you at a mental health event, and I've run into you mostly at mental health events. Is that a big part of what it seems like it, right?
What's going on?
Is there a trend?
Is there something going on with you, Shira, we need to know about?
Yes.
Is that a big priority in the things that you're doing at this point in terms of, because the tech world is obviously a big part of what you do, but you have this Creators for Mental Health organization that you've founded, and you're in that space, it seems a lot. Is that kind of where you're leaning in your focus at this point?
Yeah, I'm really passionate about it. I love being in the spaces. I love the conversations. Like I feel when I leave those spaces, alive, not sucked dry necessarily. Well, it depends what kind of conversations.
We'll see. Check back in an hour, see how you feel.
For me, I feel like I have two sides to myself because I've always loved tech. I love innovative, disruptive communities. I love the culture of, this could be questionable these days, the culture of the tech world.
Sure.
Because there's a lot of toxic masculinity around it now. Yeah. But I do love staying ahead and being on top of things and sharing that with people. Mm-hmm. So that's a big part of who I am. But then I think what's happened is ultimately I feel fascinated by human behavior and how our brains work and how we are motivated, how we stay happy in a chaotic world, how we deal with things that happen in life and resilience, like all these things I love and I'm interested in. And so I think that's what's led me more into the mental health space and also just my own journey of maintaining my own mental health and finding joy in the uncertainty in life and bringing that more to people, not just keeping it behind the scenes. So yeah, that's led me on this journey of, I guess, learning out loud in many ways and creating content and then creating this initiative, Creators for Mental Health, where I'm trying to support others who've been in my shoes and the next generation who are entering this space to try to make it more sustainable and healthy and safer for all of us and bring it into the foundation of the space versus an afterthought or an event or for the month of May for Mental Health Awareness Month and all that.
Well, maybe this is a unique opportunity then for me because normally we're talking to clients about things they've struggled with and I play the therapist, right? And the things that you talk about are things that I'm struggling with in terms of relationship with technology, with where it's going, where it's been. And I see it in my work in terms of how these things have and are affecting people currently. So, I'm curious, you were sort of at the forefront of the digital world. You got into, streaming online, creating digital content when that was not the mainstream thing.
Yeah.
And in the course of working for almost 2 decades in that world, it has become the thing. So you've sort of seen the whole arc of where it started in its foundation to where we're at now. And for somebody like me, who's like tech reluctant at best, I've been the last person to sort of, I was the last one to get the iPhone. I was the last one to get onto social media, both, I think, because of my own issues in terms of like, I fear change, just like I'm comfortable the way it is. And the new thing, it's like, I'm going to have to relearn everything and adjust my whole life to adapt to this new technology. But also part of it is just like, that sort of ominous feeling of like, where is this going to take us? How is this influencing our lives? Yeah. So how have you navigated that? Was that on your mind as you walked into this space originally, or is it something that's become on your mind?
No, it became on my mind, or it came up whatever I English. No, because when I entered the space, for me, I was trying to be in traditional media and I wasn't necessarily getting those jobs. Like I was auditioning for E! and MTV because those were the hosting jobs. I wanted to be like a Ryan Seacrest, right?
Sure.
At the time. And I was getting really close, but wasn't getting it. And so for me, the digital world was this like underground kind of all these people that weren't necessarily being heard or accepted by mainstream media. I loved how it was entrepreneurs just coming up with ideas and making them happen. So for me, it was this again, like it felt like your rock star vibe. Like it felt like the rock stars of media, right? Where it was the next generation. It felt like we were part of something special, a special movement.
It's like pirate radio. It's like underground.
That's what it felt like.
Okay.
And so for me, that was cool. And that was energizing, where I felt like, okay, there's something here and I'm tapped in. Let's ride this wave and let's see where it goes. And again, because I was one of the only women in it, like I was surrounded by a lot of men in tech. Surprise, surprise. And I definitely took advantage of that, right? Like I knew that I had that advantage and I made it work for me. And so again, there was a bit more excitement. Like if anything, there was no drain to it. It felt new and you didn't know what was going to happen, but there was no sense of reliance on it yet, right? It was more like, whoa, cool. And then you would meet other people that, there was a lot of early adopters and there'd be similar people in different spaces. You would all help each other. It was very community oriented. You knew who the people were. And it was cool to be able to also connect with maybe celebrities that you wouldn't otherwise connect with. And so it felt like you were on the inside, right? So at the time, Ashton Kutcher was on it, or like Larry King or Snoop Dogg or Mark Cuban. And these are people you would never have access to. And I know we say this about social media now, but like really early days, you would all be connected and then you would DM them and it wouldn't necessarily, sometimes it'd be them. Sometimes it would just be their social person, but they would actually write you back because they were all looking at the next thing. So you felt like, you felt like you're part of something special. So with that wasn't top of mind. It was more like, how do we play? Yeah, it was more about play because you didn't know where it was going and you didn't have that pressure. It wasn't necessarily yet about followers. If anything, after you're being on these platforms, you would go on, I wasn't personally paying attention. And then I'd realize, I actually have followers. Yeah. That was cool to be able to just post and connect and not overthink and then go back and say there's something there. Yeah. Like before you knew it, there's something there. But then I think that as it's become a place where your money, your contracts are reliant on engagement and followers and this and that, it stops becoming about playing and experimenting, even though that still needs to be part of the process. You feel like, for me personally, it feels like there's a bit more pressure for it always to be right. And so that becomes itself its own personal growth exercise. Like, are you willing to continue to put yourself out there knowing it might not be amazing, or you might like it, but other people won't? And there could be a perception of failure or not popular enough, but still being able to put yourself out there and be yourself. Like that is an exercise, a humbling ego exercise.
Well, I feel like anything like that, when it comes from an organic place, the way technology used to do, it used to kind of creep at,
exactly.
And the market would dictate what worked and what was popular. Friendster didn't work, MySpace did. Then, you know what I mean? Now I feel like because this space is so saturated and people are like, we got to have the next big thing now, whether it's market tested to a millionth degree or it's being bankrolled by, it's like when money enters the equation,
totally,
it stops being organic and about creation and about reaching out to a community. It's about, how do we monetize this? Is this going to sell? And so it loses its organic, it loses the organism.
Well, also, it was like definitely more about community. And also to be fair, big fish, small ponds,
right?
Which sometimes it's cool. And you're like, oh yeah, we own this. Yeah, of course. And so how do you, again, be okay with the fact that more people are coming in, it's bigger, great. There's a positive to that, right? More people can get discovered, voices that typically wouldn't, amazing. And I'm still excited and intrigued, and I'm always curious about technology and emerging tech. And now I have a podcast on AI, the AI Download. Go subscribe, and a lot of what I navigate, though, and it's always been the case, was never about the specs or, and this is this hard drive or this, that. It was never about that. It was more about the culture around it and how this will influence culture and each of us and how we can implement it in our lives. So those are the things I still navigate when it comes to technology. But I definitely feel, and now they're seeing the attachment theory connected to AI. And I do feel like that could be connected to our relationships with even social media. So in attachment theory, and you would know that like this, again, I'm a student, I'm not an expert. I'm not even a real student. I'm a student like of life, knowledge seeker. So, attachment theory, anxious attachment, secure attachment, avoidant. And that could be connected to also any sort of relational, like dynamic person, intimacy, colleague. I would say technology, social media, and AI. And so I have been someone who has anxious attachment, probably more so, and working on secure attachment. I guess we all have a bit of everything. It depends on the dynamic. I feel like social media at different points has definitely brought up some anxious attachment in me, where I go back.
You're not alone.
Yeah. And so if you look at that, then you could see, okay, well, then the question is it a place that you want to be? Mm-hmm. Like, that's a legit question. Mm-hmm. These days it feels somewhat like there's not really a choice.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think when you take the feeling of lack of choice out of it, it could feel then you're in a place of you're being controlled, right? And there's no sovereignty in that. And so how do you, with this awareness, create a sense of choice? Mm-hmm. And that's a constant day-to-day thing.
That's an interesting way to think of it, because to put it in those terms, I would say I have an avoidant attachment relationship with technology, social media, and certainly AI, as that's becoming a reality very quickly in our lives and will continue, I'm sure, in the next couple of years to become omnipresent.
Yep.
That's the feeling. You've kind of put your finger on it in terms of like feeling controlled, feeling like I have no choice in the matter. This is where the world has gone and will continue to go. And short of me just dropping out of society and like being a doomsday prepper in a bunker in the middle of nowhere and deciding I don't want to participate in modern society, you have to, on every level, whether you are in business and promoting things or just having reference points for where we're at as a culture and connecting to people, you have to sort of be a part of that flow. You don't really have a choice. And so that doesn't feel good to me. My instinct at first and still is like, I don't know. I'm reluctant to sign up for that. I wish that I could carve my own little separate reality that I'm not dependent.
Well, what if then, again, what if there was a both ends? Why is it one or the other?
Yeah.
And how do you make it work for you? Mm-hmm. Knowing how you feel and what makes sense for you.
Right.
So I think that's the solution for each of us. And it goes back to like your foundational values, like what you enjoy, what makes you feel good, how you work. You're an organized person, so knowing that and how you work and how you execute on things and find results, can you create that with this thing? Right. So even for me, that could mean, dropping in when I feel energized and I feel not a sense of like crap, or when I notice, and this takes awareness and slowing down and mindfulness, that I'm on my feed and I'm getting into the zombie doom scroll, stepping out of it, saying, okay, I've fallen in, not to blame myself and make myself feel like crap, because that defeats the purpose, but say, okay, because this is what these things are meant to do, right? It's meant to keep you on. It's a business. So knowing that, how do you choose out? And then also I put on my agenda, like my calendar, okay, tomorrow I'm going to post this video at this time, like either scheduling it out. And this is it's just like you would do anything, like at this time, a time you have an appointment or a call. This is the time I'm going to go in social. Either I'm going to quickly scan what's happening, what people are doing, maybe get some inspiration. If I start feeling like crap and it's not feeling good, I'm going to step away. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right? You're building your relationship with it, your boundaries with it, versus being reactive and it having control over you. Mm-hmm. So like, that's what I think is the best approach. And then creating strategy. It's a business. So I think it's also, this is the unfortunate thing. There is this sense of like, but it's you and it's authentic. Like, well, also, let's be honest with ourselves. If it's a business, then like approach it like a business. Mm-hmm. And I think when I start doing that, I start feeling less of a personal clash or tension with it. where I'm like, okay, this is what I would do with my business. And I would get some support. Maybe I'd get someone to help with social. Maybe I would do this. Like, I wouldn't take it all on. I would have a strategy. I would have a business model, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I think. That's what helps me.
Part of your platform with the Creators for Mental Health is the JOMO journal, right?
So JOMO came before it. Yeah, but it definitely, it's this idea of going from FOMO to JOMO. And from having been in so many tech spaces that function off of the fear of missing out. And at the time when we started this, me and my co-founder, Jordana Ream, we were in the Web3 blockchain crypto space, which functions 24/7, global economy. Exactly.
Those are all words.
And it's all
sent a shiver down my spine.
I know, sorry. NFTs, which was built on FOMO, right?
Yeah.
Saying like, if you don't get in now, you're going to miss out. Yeah. And I would say a lot of what we do with social media is built on that, viral trends, being first. If you do cover breaking news, being like, it's all on that. And that's a lot of pressure. Or being at an event. If you're not there, are you relevant? Is like, all the stories we tell ourselves. And again, the idea of the joy of missing out in JOMO is about reclaiming that and saying it's okay to choose in or out. And again, it's about the joy of being here. You're okay wherever you're at right now. Like, this is where you're meant to be because you're there, whether you like it or not. And what do you need to do to find some peace in that? And part of that is finding peace in yourself and, how you choose that, or the way life is happening. And again, what are you going to do with that moment? Are you going to think about the story of there's better things happening that you're not part of, which is a very torturous thought, like self-torture, right? Self-abuse, really. Yeah. What a mean thing to say to yourself. There's things happening outside of me and people are doing things that I'm not part of, and it's better than where I'm at. I mean, it's real. But also, what can you do in these moments where you are alone or in whatever situation you're in? Like, it's about joyful experiences. I don't know the actual definition, like joyful experiences happening that you're not part of.
Where I strangely find joy is, I kind of make a conscious choice in my social media experience. So for example, my X account, my Twitter account, the only thing I follow on Twitter is my favorate teams or the journalists. So all I do is I get sports updates and I don't wade into the muck of doom scrolling there. With Instagram and TikTok, things like that, I actually find the joy in when I'm watching something that has hooked me and I go, oh no, this is they're just trying to get me to watch this whole, and I skip it and I go, oh, I feel good. I feel like I beat the system. I feel like I beat the algorithm. It's just a little victory of being like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, all right, I'm going to watch this whole 50 minutes. And at the end, the dog doesn't even get the bone. I don't even, you know what I mean? And so I find a little bit of joy in that. It's like I'm reclaiming my power against it. Exactly. It's a little thing, but it makes me happy.
What you're mentioning is really important. It's about, curating your own feed, right? Because social media does feed you what it thinks you'll interact with and keep you there. And so a lot of times that could be, again, it's things that bring up emotion or conversation. I mean, typically it's conversation because they want you to watch and interact, because then that shows that it's popular and it's working. Yeah. So a lot of times you interact with things that usually rile you up. I mean, do you typically comment, or I guess that are very sweet? You typically, well, you might not comment, but most people either comments like the best, cutest, sweetest, most inspiring thing, or the worst thing ever. Yeah. And more people comment, I think, when it riles them up and they want to make a point around something because it becomes very tribal, right? And I think that it feeds into our need to be seen and heard, and also like some sort of morality is around it. And I mean, again, we're so divided. Are we divided? Has social media amplified the divisiveness?
If you don't comment,
all of that.
Are you complicit if you don't comment?
That's also it.
If you're not fighting back.
And then there's also an anonymity on social media. So a lot of times you wouldn't talk like that to someone in person. I mean, these days we question that, but most of the time. And so I think a lot of people who typically wouldn't, then they use social media as that front, as their like ultra ego to do it. And so with that said and how it works, we just need to be mindful of how we curate our own feeds and how we're, the messages we're giving social media in terms of what types of stuff we want to interact with. right? So that's a huge part of it. I think a lot of people, it's easy to blame the social media companies, and they're hugely a part of it. They're definitely responsible. I mean, hello, and complicit. But in the of them doing anything, you can't control that.
That's a tall order for the masses to have to be so responsible for something that most people don't even understand is happening. They're just being manipulated and brainwashed by it, and they're not aware of the way these things are designed. The algorithm. I mean, that just this conversation makes me anxious, because it's like I have limited experience in scrolling, where like I have a client who's talking about somebody that I don't really know that much about, and I want to know, like Jordan Peterson, for instance, leaps to mind, and I was like, well, I should probably educate myself on what he's talking about, because a lot of people are talking about this. So then I searched Jordan Peterson, a bunch of stuff comes up. I'm watching it. I'm both intrigued and a little disgusted, and then I scroll and another thing comes up and another thing comes up, and now I'm like having anxiety, because I'm like, now my algorithm thinks that I like Jordan Peterson, and I haven't even made a choice other than to just that one choice to learn more about something, and now my feed is being designed for me around something that I don't know if I have signed up for in terms of its values. And so that's coming from somebody who's pretty well aware and well informed and engaging with reluctance. For most people, they're just like, oh, this is entertainment. And they don't even realize what is happening that's being tailored to have them buy something or think something or engage in a certain way or join a certain program of values. That gives me anxiety.
Well, yeah, I think, and what you're tapping into is a new type of intelligence and understanding we need in education, right? The public needs from a young age to understand how to be in these spaces, what's healthy, how to, understand when their body, again, is telling them that something's not okay, it's not safe. And so what do you do with that? Not just in physical spaces, because, I think some people, well, not a lot, have been taught, okay, stranger danger and all these things when you're young. I think there's going to be a similar thing. My hope is that is taught in schools of how do you know, again, when a space isn't safe for you, and that's online and virtually too. So you might start feeling physical sensations, you might start thinking bad things in your head, negative self-talk. What do you do in these moments? And knowing that these spaces are primed to bring that out in you, possibly. So like, this is a new awareness and education we all need. I mean, the next generation, even obviously adults, because we're scrolling blindly, right? And that goes back to, I guess, because we're going in so many different paths here, but like the joy of missing out is really an entryway into really mindfulness and gratitude and science-backed tools to find your own North Star and your inner compass. Right. So you can lead the way versus reacting to everything around you and everything vying for your attention from social media, the world, news, people, your industry, whatever it is. Because the more, we react and come from a place of FOMO, the more before we know it, we're not even doing the things we want to do or like doing. And then ultimately we're not happy. And then when we're not happy, we're not showing up in the best way for ourselves and others. And it's a domino effect. So for me, I always say, what's the goal? Is the goal being, in your life is like happy, at peace, or being, right, or like being right, or, or living your life according to X, Y, and Z, other things, other people, all these things that, again, is more of our perception of what those people, they think of our life. Because as you know, like most of us are just thinking about ourselves and trying to navigate our own lives. And when you think about that, like you are not the center of someone else's life most of the time. Just so live the life that you want to live. And ultimately that will attract the right people and the right opportunities. Easier said than done.
Sure.
Right. So is Creators for Mental Health primarily focused on the mental health of people like you who are creators, content creators, digital creators, or is it also and equally concerned with people who are just consumers?
The audience.
I think right now it is creatives in this economy, because I see the acting world has it, music, backline musicians, And this is this new space of creatives that has emerged and doesn't have a lot of this infrastructure or protections. And so for me, it's a huge gap that needs to be filled and solved, including as the creator economy is looking to be $500 billion industry by 2027. And, 1.5 million people in the US consider themselves full-time creators. Yet, where are these things that like can support us as small business, as individuals? Like everyone wants to make all this money and we're talking about all the business, but then there's again this gap of, okay, well, what's going on with us as humans as we're navigating this? Which I think if you're building a new business that's going to be this disruptive force, right, and not like previous traditional entertainment businesses, why are we not talking about this? I mean, and we are talking about this. There's a lot of advocacy happening, as but there's then this gap between the advocacy and then the companies that have money and then like actually what could help people day to day. And so for me, that includes consistent, events and community spaces to connect, because we're missing a lot of that. There's loneliness. We're working a lot alone ourselves as workers. And, research around it. I'm working on some research right now to support the work we're doing and inform it, because we all know these things, but for some reason there's a lack of trust that it's like, what's actually happening? Is that, do creators actually want that? What are they actually going through? So there's a lack of, I would say, actual data around this. And then services. So how do you make sure people can get the help they need when they need it and have access to it? A lot of us are financially up and down, just like any other creative industry. And so part of that, our first product, I guess we announced, or it's really a service in collaboration with Revive Health Therapy, Creator Care, was sliding scale discounted therapy for creators starting in California. Nice. So if you're a creator in California, you have access to this. Go to creatorcare.co, and sign up for a 15-minute free consultation, and we'll connect you to a therapist that's right for you. And it's very human to human. It's not bots. It's not this. You can connect with someone directly. Even if you email and you want to work with someone else or you have feedback, like you're not just going through a scaled up system that you don't know who you're really connecting with. And it's as low as $60 to $180, depending on income and with or without insurance. So I think that was really huge. And then also we're teaching and basically doing trainings with the therapists we currently have on, why is the creator experience different? How to help, as I call, like digital natives and people in this economy. And I think this will be something new for a lot of therapists that they'll have to learn, because as you mentioned, like, well, you go through it, but I'm sure you have clients besides dealing with the creative side and for your case, maybe musicians. Are you a therapist too?
No, I'm an actor.
Okay. Oh, you're
he plays one on TV.
Or like, I don't So I think that therapists will have to learn how to understand the specific needs of this type of industry, of people in this industry, as more like Gen Z and even Gen Alpha. 56% of Gen Z want to be influencers. Right. It doesn't mean they're going to be. It's like acting. Like how many people want to be an actor, and then how many people actually are a working actor? But still, there's going to be a lot of people entering the space. 41% of adults, like I think, as work changes and people go off on their own, become solopreneurs, like we're all going to be creators in some ways. So again, how do you make sure mental health professionals are equipped and understand? And then how do we make sure the industry, like the services, are equipped to deal with us coming in and needing help?
Well, I have a question about that, just because it brought up something in my mind. You talk about the infrastructure not being there. Do you see a benefit in grouping, I don't want to say lump, the creator community into an existing infrastructure, for example, like the Screen Actors Guild? There's been a lot of discussion in years in my union about how can we get influencers and things to be partially because they bring in a ton of revenue, which our industry is not creating anymore because everything's pared down. But in addition, there is a healthcare system in place. There is support. There are networks for things like. Do you see a benefit in that, or do you think that because of the nature of the solo creation world that it's not a one-to-one comp?
Yeah, totally. I've actually worked and collaborated with SAG, and I love what they're doing. I love the team. I think we need as many players in this industry playing in this and figuring out solutions. Like there shouldn't just be one solution.
Right.
Because again, as we know, SAG is not a one size fits all. And I think they're going to even be shifting. A lot of us, want the choice, I think, as digital creators to be part of something that's union or non-union. Yeah. So there's a bit of like a consensual space around that, or else we're not gonna be able to work on a lot of things. Right. So there is a bit of that. And I also think a lot of us have small businesses. So sometimes we're playing creator, but sometimes we're playing producer, exact, like wearing so many hats. And for me, even what impacts my mental health is my ability to support my teams, right? So I think SAG could be a solution depending on where you're at and what your needs are. And even we're talking to them about offering a 10% discount to SAG members who are creators to get access to Creators for Mental Health. So we would be collaborating with them. And, Creators Guild of America, same. There's Carrot Financial, which is a credit card for creators. They'd be offering Creators for Mental Health. And I'm even hoping that they're not Creators for Mental Health, Creator Care, sorry. I'm hoping that they don't just offer us. Like, I want to normalize anyone that interfaces with digital creators or creatives in this way it's normal to have these resources. Hey, when you sign up for your agency or your influencer marketing company that maybe is representing you and you're working with a lot, send in your, 1099. And by the way, if you ever want resources, if you need support, here's a few. And it could be a bunch of things. It could be us and a few things. It could be everything from the suicide hotline to crisis text line to creator care to, we're hoping to build out a community hub and have group therapy at a certain point and all these things like us and others. Right. And so, I think that is one approach. But it's not the be all end all, because also, and I don't know if SAG's global, international, like we're dealing with a global economy and very, I would say, local community based. Like when you are in a city, people know each other. Sure. So how do we also utilize that to get people access to what they need? I mean, I was talking to Creator HQ in Dubai, and the UAE had some folks who lost their lives. They had two creators recently who died by suicide. And they're looking at this. Yeah, it's a bit of a crisis. And especially in communities that it's been stigmatized to talk about mental health. And they really want to do something about it. Of course, you have places like that in Canada where they have healthcare, despite what you think maybe of their healthcare, but they have access, like they can get therapy and all these things. So how we approach Creators for Mental Health there might be different than how we approach it in the US and our needs.
Like you say.
Yeah, that was a good question.
Multiple fronts attack it rather than just one size fits all.
Exactly. And my hope is that we could energize communities around the globe and have, events, pop-up events around the world, at least one a year, and then have, an annual summit. And I mean, I just have so many ideas. And then we're, launching a nonprofit where we could have a scholarship fund for creators in crisis, kind of, again, very similar, like shout out to Backline, very huge inspiration for that. So I think it's exciting. It's not exciting that people have issues.
It is for our show.
But the opportunity and gap is exciting, especially where I get to use my passion for tech and innovation and community building with, I think, my passion for the future of mental health in this space. So I don't know, that makes me pumped. It makes me feel like purposeful, which helps with mental health, right? Because a lot of mental health, as you know, the lack of purpose is a huge thing that impacts our mental health. For me, whenever I feel juiced up about something and feeling a sense of purpose and something bigger than me, like of service, helps your mental health. It helps me. Yeah.
That's a big part of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah. And as you're talking about this stuff, I'm
talking a lot.
It's hitting home for me in terms of like how much this is needed, not just because I realize this is a community that needs these resources, but also because these are the people that are influencing the culture.
Yes.
And if the people that are influencing culture are doing better and have more self-awareness, that's going to affect the culture.
Bingo.
Trickle down healthcare.
Bingo. Yeah. If we're consuming content from these people and they are unhappy and sad, even if they pretend not to be, we're energetically consuming that. That's a domino effect. So imagine we're trying to make, you're not going to stop people from experiencing life and the human experience. Let's be clear. But if we can help them a bit to show up in ways that they feel better with, then imagine the next generation. Imagine how much better than we're aligned with the things we're doing, right? The people that are following us, including the younger folks, can then see that and mirror it, or then are inspired to do it differently. But if they're seeing certain things online that aren't associated with things that are healthy, they will mirror that too. And we've seen that.
Well, I think that's really important.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Do you have kids?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have kids yet. I mean, it's rough.
It's scary.
Well, I think it's really important because part of the anxiety that I've had recently in particular, as I look at where we're at as a culture politically, in terms of the kind of things that we're struggling with and how we communicate with each other and the divide, and just the level of vitriol and anger and, fearing our neighbors and that type of thing. Yeah. It's like so much of that has been fed by the fact that we're in these little silos. And some of it is the media in terms of political cable news and that type of thing. But it's also that the algorithm is tailoring things in a way that we get stuck in, and it actually exacerbates the fears that we already have and makes us more fearful or more angry. And, I made a choice as a clinician. I was kind of reluctant. It was like, people like, you should be working in the music industry, or you should be working with people that are very high performing people like you were in Maroon 5 that have issues. And I was like, okay, but those people are doing relatively well. They're succeeding. It's like, really successful people can sometimes be the most fucked up people, right? Whether they're world leaders that have massive egos and that it trickles down in the way you described to the culture, or the way that we gravitate towards because we're not self-aware of the things that we're consuming or the ways we're relating to ourselves, that we then are attracted to people that are not well-adjusted, healed people. And if our artists, if our performers, if our content creators, influencers are wounded people that aren't working on themselves, that's how we've gotten to this place that we're at, is because the culture has become toxic. And you amplify that, that's where my fear comes in. It's like you become, so dependent on this stuff that we're not critically thinking, we're not developing as human beings in ways that can allow us to see through this maze and actually help ourselves in ways that helps the culture. If we can get in on this ground level of helping people that are capable of influencing in that way, that can have a ripple effect that is positive as opposed to toxic. Totally.
And then they're talking about their inner reflections, what they're going through. They're being vulnerable. And other people feel like they're less alone. You're bringing some humanity to this stuff, right? I think that's so important. And again, they could still be doing makeup reviews and tech reviews, but knowing that, that person behind it, and this idea of, they've got it together, but like, wow, like they're a person of integrity. They have certain traits and a character that is really amazing. And I respect, like, that helps in terms of what you're consuming. Again, like, you become what you consume. And, I do believe that. And it's not just even what you like actually are hearing. Yes, it's the words. It's like what you're visually seeing. It's also the energy.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, again, if you look at someone like, Logan Paul or whatever, he looks back at some of the videos he did, which were really problematic. I mean, he could question if some of them still are, but, and whatever you think about him, whatever, him going, to the suicide forest that time. And that was a big viral video, and just like the lack of awareness. Like if he understood the complexity of that and had done his own introspection of what that meant to him, maybe he wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But like, again, we're in this world of seeking the views and the virality and the controversy that we will bypass any sort of inner reflection of what that means if that really aligns with us.
Right. That's a tough thing to combat, because even if you're not somebody who, in my estimation is pretty up like him, even just a normal person, like that has become the currency today, in terms of like a lot of young people are feeling their value based upon how many likes they get or how big their following is. And there is that aspiration, like I want to be an influencer in the same way that for our generation, you wanted to be on TV or you wanted to be in a band as I did, and so, I think that for relatively well-adjusted people, even that is an issue. It's like, how do you prioritize something more meaningful, connection, purpose, other than just, is it getting likes? Is it getting views? When that is the currency of today, that's a tough uphill battle.
It is. And then it goes back to, again, what's your goal in life? Like, meaning not what's your goal, like, okay, I want to make money, I want this, that, but like, how do you want to feel? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I want to feel happy. Well, is this helping you get you there?
Yeah.
Well, I guess if I do it and then I make money, blah, blah, blah. But where are you at now? Because in the end, you can't predict the future. If you're constantly working towards that while being unhappy, is that even going to get you to there?
Right.
You know, happy creates more happy. Unhappy, you know, as we know, it's like you're waiting for that aha moment. It's not going to happen, which is why working on your happiness now with what you have now, I do believe is the key. Again, easier said than done. I deal with this all the time. I'm constantly in the mode of like, is what I'm doing enough? Like, oh, I would be feeling better if I had X, Y, and Z, which is real, right? That is a reality. But then I also then have to come back to, okay, what do you have now? Gratitude, this, that, because I realize like my brain is messing with me right now. Like this is a thing your brain does. It's like, again, the feeling of lack. Mm-hmm. And then before you know it, you're not even here in the present moment and living. And if you're not showing up in the present moment to do what you need to do, how are you going to create the future? It's not pragmatic. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So for me, coming back to the present moment and saying like, well, I would like some inner peace. I would like some joy because I know I show up better. Like, I want to be happy. I want to feel good. I want to make others feel good. How can I make others feel good if I'm feeling like shit? These are big questions to ask yourself, and then being both pragmatic about it and understanding what's happening in your brain, right? In your body, like what you as a human are doing to yourself to make you that way. And what are the routines and things you need to do to get yourself out of that in the moment, which means you need to be in the moment because you need to recognize in the moment.
Right.
And then how do you evaluate the things in your life now and whether they're actually going to get you there or that helps or hurts? Yeah. And this is something I constantly deal with. And, you know, and so then I go, I love being on stage. I get energized. I love helping people. I love creating content. Like I love the actual, like the creative process of it. Mm-hmm. There is this part of it that gives me anxiety, which is the posting it, the reactions, the pushing it out there. Is there a way to lessen that? What does it mean? Like, you know, how do I get there? Or do I just accept the fact that gives me anxiety? And so I need to manage that. Yeah. Like, I don't know. Or like, these are, again, things I'm constantly thinking about.
I think one of the issues is that type of introspection and that type of perspective only comes with age and experience. And so people my age are the ones who are going, well, I've had some success. I've had some financial success. That didn't bring me happiness. So what is happiness? And so I think the trick is instilling those skills and that mindset in people who aren't really asking those questions of themselves yet.
Whether, young people, do they even like, come on, I think part of youth is that blind ambition.
Yeah.
But I think unfortunately,
ignorance is bliss. You know?
I think unfortunately young people are feeling that ennui in that existential crisis at younger ages because they're seeing what is important. What should I be striving for? And I don't know if there's a clear, there's no 50-year job at General Motors to shoot for like our grandparents had or something, you know what I mean? So it's a lot more existential of a crisis. Yeah,
that is so real. And I think that's why more so it is about coming back to like family units and also that, I'm not a parent. So this is also like adults, we need to lead by example for young people. Yeah. We need to come together as a community. And I do think, and we've seen taking away the devices does make a difference, right? For focus, for attention, for creativity, for memory, all these things for both kids and adults, by the way. And going back to kind of the basics, like going back to nature, going back to what's, tactical in your hands, like working with our hands and going, making sure we're being physical and movement of our bodies and encouraging each other to really figure out like, what do you like? Like coming back to, as an adult, what did you love when you were younger? And when did you lose that? I mean, The Artist's Way was such a good book that helped with that. I found I was in that place of the feeling lack of purpose, semi-depression, and reading that book definitely was helpful to come back to the things I just liked that were outside of my work and the identity I'd created that I thought was the only thing I had, and realizing that like, no, I get to have a sense of self-worth outside of my work. And Shira, whether all this exists or not, is a beautiful human being that is worthy, right? And that is special and unique and important without all this stuff. Yeah. That is a constant, the work that you need to do. And how do we create programs, whether at school or otherwise, that allow for that, and create, and also accessibility, because it could be very heady and difficult to wrap your minds around. So how do you make it exciting and fun, especially for younger folks, to feel like hope, right? Hope about the future.
I do think, and I can speak as a parent, there is a little bit of that infrastructure there, certainly more so than when we were kids. Kids are taught mindfulness at an early age. They're taught positive thought. They're taught being proactive and so it's happening, whether it's happening everywhere and not just California and Los Angeles where we're all hippies and, I can't speak to that, but there is hope. There is, I do see it.
But again, it's kind of an uphill battle because, you mentioned memories of like, what did I love as a kid? What's innocent and pure and something that I can connect with? Being of a generation above, you're probably a little younger than us, but
how are you?
but we are old enough to remember the world before the digital world took over, right? So we remember an analog world. We remember the feeling of the breeze on our back and being in the park and just playing on a swing,
Going
right?
on your bike ride to your friend's place.
Right. But when I was in rehab, and there's the addictive element of this that we haven't even really hit the nail on the head yet. But when I was in rehab and I was in my late 30s, there were kids in there that were in their early 20s that had been on opioids since they were 13 years old, addicts. And I remember one day they had a field trip where they took a lot of the younger people to the beach. And then the next day they took them to like Magic Mountain or something like that. And I was like, I want to go to the beach. And I didn't expect this answer. They said, well, you have memories of that. These kids missed out on that completely.
Oh, wow.
When they are trying to get off of opioids, they have nothing in their memory banks to replace it with. You can remember a time when you went to a ball game and just enjoyed it because it was nice, because it was green grass and clean air and good times. They don't have those memories. And so my fear is like, if you grew up with this addictive thing and this influence in your life 24/7, and it's robbing you of genuine connection and real experiences like that, is it as easy to go back and find those memories? Or you have to kind of discover them and create it from scratch, which is a real uphill battle to compete with these images that you're seeing of, everyone's on a yacht and popping bottles and living the fabulous life. And it's like, well, I want that. That's going to make me happy.
That feels like fun. Yeah. You see it. You're like, well, that looks like a blast. Right. And you're like, until I get that, then who am I? What am I? Yeah. Right. And then it feels like you don't have enough. Right. And the feeling of the not enough is the issue. Right. Because, at every point, as you mentioned, like super successful people, more money, more problems, like that. There's always issues at every point. And so the work is constantly, again, I think sometimes it's just day to day, like, and you've been in a rehab, like sometimes it's just about, what do I need to, let's just get through today. And then before you know it, it's been a month. And then before you know it's a year, and you're like, oh, every day I kind of was happy. Yeah. And now I've had joy. But it's also realizing, and well, both of you would know, but I just like, you brought up the rehab part. Have you been in rehab?
I haven't.
I think it's also accepting that life is not always happy. Right. And it's okay. Like if you're going through a shitty time or you're not getting what you want, or you've had failures, that, like the idea of like, welcome to life. That's okay. Yeah. The more I've accepted that and been like, that's just part of it. It's part of the journey. And having more skills to emotionally regulate myself during those times, like work on my nervous system during those times. Because for me, I do get, and I think everyone goes through this, where you see that cloud coming, you're like, oh no, not that again. Mm-hmm. I don't want to go through that again. Whether it be you see a situation, you're making money and like the situation feel like it's falling apart.
Right.
Oh, great. Then I'm going to be back at square one. I have to get another job. I'm going to have, go back into money issues. Like for me, like those things come up, and although I always survive it,
right,
and it becomes another story. So for me personally, it's like one of those things of like, you can self-trust. That's been huge for me. Like knowing I'm going to get through it. I have the skills, and working on my nervous system to not freak out, to get into fight or flight in that, not even in that moment, like before that even happens, because I'm so waiting for it to happen.
I'm sure there's a movement on social media, but we should start a social media platform that's just reality check. Like, it's not yachts and popping bottles. It's, hey, I paid my water bill today.
No, like that is it. Like that.
People see like life can suck sometimes, and people commiserate with that.
Real, because I feel like you, and I still go through this where I'll be like, no, why haven't I figured it out? This, that, I should have this, I should have that at my age, all this stuff. And then I have to go back. It's like the gratitude, like, wow, yeah, I paid my bills this month. Yeah. I have an amazing community. My parents are healthy. I'm healthy. Like, wow. And like focus on that. Again, it's the reframing constantly, because if you think about all the things you don't have, there's a lot of things. Okay. Yeah. So what are you going to do about it? But what do you have? And can you enjoy that? Can you be grateful for that and not take it for granted? Because it always could get worse, right? Yeah. And so for me, it's a constant routine of that, like making that into a habit, which is so important. And like, I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and my brother has run a big successful business at different points, and then also almost gotten bankrupt and all that. And, he's someone that could, in that month have $100 million business and then like nothing, or like, he's in the clothing business. Anyway, and I'll talk to him, and he'll be like, how's business going? I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll be making this year. Yeah, maybe I'll say like for my business, $500,000. Not for me personally, and I don't take that. I pay a lot. I have to pay people, so it doesn't mean it's a profit. But $500,000 for me, you say that to someone in LA, or people that run a company, and they're like, oh, cute. Oh, $500,000, it's in the end, I'm a small business. And what's so cool in talking to him, and I wish there was more conversation like this, he goes, no, that's amazing. That takes work. You are running a business. You are an entrepreneur. And like, that's validating. And then the times I'm like, oh my God, no, shit has hit the fan. Like, I don't even know if we're going to get through payables, or oh my God, all that stress. He'll say to me, sometimes you just need to think month to month. Like, I know you want to think the year and strategy, blah, blah, blah. Just get through the month and then think about next month. And before you know it, the year has happened. Yeah. And that's how sometimes businesses run. And it's hard. And the more you talk about it openly, actually, the more you meet other people, they're like, yeah, that's what I done. And you're like, what? I thought you were so successful. Or the cash flow, this, that. Like, yeah, it's maybe at a bigger level. I'm still dealing with the same things as you. So I think we need more of that. We need more honest conversations, because the yacht person, you don't know what's actually happening.
It's just a rental.
So that, and so in the end, that's why you just don't be distracted by things that are happening around you. Live your life and the realities of your life, and embrace those, because those are yours and your stories to tell, and what's going to create the next thing. And if anything, if you're seeing something and you're saying, oh, I want that, or jealous, like I look at that as, it's not about saying, oh, forget about that. It's saying, no, that's information. Maybe that is something you want. So let's work on maybe what does it mean for you to go after that, versus, I wish I was there, but like, what does that mean to you? Or if you think about it and you sit with it, maybe it doesn't, maybe you kind of like the idea of it, but maybe you don't really care. I don't know. Yeah.
So before we run out of time,
before we wrap up,
I want to talk about AI for a minute, because you have a show dedicated to AI, and
we want to finish the show scaring the shit out of everybody.
Yeah.
Well, we'll come back around and make it happy again at the end. But just given everything that I've expressed to you in terms of my fears and anxieties around this, I see AI as a sort of trampoline for a lot of the things that have already been issues. That's not to deny the fact that there are a lot of pros to it, and it's going to bring a lot of things. It's going to make a lot of things a lot easier and more convenient, especially in the world that you're describing, in terms of being able to effectively start a business as an entrepreneur. Yeah. And it's going to keep costs down. It's going to do a lot of things. So I'm aware that there are a lot of benefits, but I have a lot of fears about the cons and the potential downsides, and how it's going to affect everything we're already struggling with. So for somebody like me, make me feel good about AI.
No, your fears are legitimate. It's going very fast, and there's not a lot of regulation or a sense of control around it, which is scary, because also the people at the top are people that you're like, do I trust you with all this stuff? What does this mean in the future? Like, we saw what happened with social media. So I think in the end, though, when you think about the access points for people that wouldn't have necessarily had the money to hire all these people anyway, the entryway for creativity and for growth, it is kind of like what we saw with social media, but on steroids, in terms of the ability to do what you want to do without getting permission. Mm-hmm. That is, I think, an amazing thing with this tech. And I think also you're in mental health. I think that in the end, a lot of people are hurting, and hopefully the AI will get there to be able to support them in a non-problematic manner. And that becomes a bridge to working on ourselves and then getting the help that is needed. Mm-hmm. And again, you could say, well, then they're going to take over even therapist jobs. Are those people that would have gone therapy? Or maybe that this will help them get the help they need to take those steps.
Sure.
So these become bridges, mm-hmm. I feel. And I guess that's the more optimistic side. Also for healthcare, clinical trials, we're going to get to solutions much more quickly. And again, invent things that needed to happen much more quickly. Mm-hmm. So you have to think about that side of things that we wouldn't have had if it wasn't for, again, AI. And there's so many industries that take advantage of people and are predatory. And I mean, even getting a lawyer, come on, like most lawyers are how much money? People don't have access to that. If AI will help with access to that information in real time, which is really cool and important.
Mm-hmm. You convinced me. I'm not worried at all.
There you go. No, I think you're never going to not be worried. I'm just saying like it is a 50-50.
Yeah.
And so it goes back to like, what are you going to focus on?
Sure.
I think always move into it with skepticism, with healthy skepticism, and asking the questions. And I always say call forth versus call out, because call forth creates, again, those bridges for solutions versus saying it's me against you. Because in the end, we all need to work together. It needs to be a collaborative space and process in order to get to the place that we want to be. Mm-hmm. But just saying I'm scared, so I'm not going to participate, I think is not the way to go.
Sure.
And because it's all moving forward and happening, and I want the right folks who should be in this space.
Yeah.
Again, like someone like you, and I'm because he mentioned he was scared. You already are into it.
Well, as an actor, I'm experiencing my own.
And that's
fears
the thing is, I know,
AI.
and Justine Bateman is very vocal about this. And I was surprised from her because she was so early to digital video and all this stuff. And I knew her then, and we were collaborating a lot. And to see her go up against, like, again, there's a way to be saying, hey, actors, we need to be in this. We need to be leading the way. We need to be creating the tools that we need. Right now, you cutting yourself out of it is saying then companies are just going to emerge without collaborating with you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is that the world we want to live in? No. Like, I would love more actors to be creating these tools, but we've created a space that there's so much fear mongering that you've, I think, put a pause on so many people jumping in.
The counterpoint to that would be, like saying, well, I have to go on Charlie Kirk's podcast because if I'm not engaging with that side, then they're just going to, you know what I mean?
No, one is a disruptive tech that's changing the world, that is going to change your industry. And another is an abusive person that probably doesn't believe in your rights.
Yeah. I'm just saying
two different people
in terms of
two different things.
If you are
one wants to build with
something.
you and one doesn't. One is clearly doing things against your rights and you as a human. Mm-hmm. And the other, you get to co-create.
Okay.
That is different. Again,
but to the people that are creating these technologies,
I'm not asking you to vote for Trump. I'm asking you to be involved in politics.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a difference.
The selling point of these technologies is what you're describing, but the people that are creating them, are they actually concerned with people engaging in a way that's helpful and productive? Or are they primarily, as all businesses are, concerned with making money and having power and influence over you?
Both. I mean, just like any industry, there's bad players. Like I do think a lot of this was created without a lot of that in mind, and ignorance, again, is bliss for them. scraping the internet, scraping this to build these tech. They weren't sure where it was going, but it was going to be huge. We'll make a ton of money, but not understanding because they weren't in entertainment. I don't, maybe they didn't have the lawyers to tell them the implications of that. Or, well, it's just kind of like fair use or Google scraping with search. Like I feel like they created these case studies in their heads and like models of why this would work that didn't make sense. Like if you had anyone who was a lawyer that came from this space or a creator and talent, they would have brought it up from the beginning. This is an issue. Mm-hmm. But again, a lot of times in tech, they're using fair use as an excuse. This is not fair use. We know this. There's Getty's right now in a lawsuit with Stability in the UK because they're saying, your images look a lot like ours. And they go, well, we scraped the internet. We only did a bit from you. Okay, so that bit you still need to pay for. It's called a licensing agreement. This isn't rocket science. This isn't anything new. And again, you would think with tech, I always say like these complex issues come up. You would think with technologists, they would say, ooh, complex issues. I want to find solutions. Instead, they turn the other way. That is a big issue. So yes, there are companies that are doing that totally went forward without thinking about these things. And now a lot of people say, well, it's too late. Or how do we even go back? Or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, you need to figure it out. And they've done some licensing deals with platforms and news organizations. Huge gap still. And then there's new companies that are starting out now knowing the issues that have been brought up in real time because we're learning as we go, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And they are very artist oriented. They are hiring people and basically building the models from them, but you're getting paid for that. Then the question is, well, at a certain point, you're basically using me so great, I have a job for a few years and then I won't. These are big questions, right? Or is it that you're building the model off me? I get a salary plus a licensing deal, kind of like, for acting or forever royalties, but residuals forever, right? So these are things that are being thought of and talked about. Or you put on your creative hat and your entrepreneur hat and you say, okay, I'm going to be a creator executive and I'm going to build with these people instead of just thinking about just my creative expression. I'm going to put on my builder hat on too. And this is important. And I think we need more people like that and thinking outside the box about their skills and talents and expertise. And in those moments, that's where evolution happens of what you love doing, your work, your life. Mm-hmm. That's in these moments of usually mass disruption of an industry is where the people that are growth mindset and open-minded thrive. And it's not just the bad boy technologists, it's other people too. So that's why I think growth mindset is the most important thing, being open-minded and curious. Mm-hmm. And part of that then is diving in despite your annoyances and grievances and all that and saying, I'm gonna go into these spaces and see what intrigues me. Mm-hmm. And then that's the opening for what you need to tap into.
Well, your points are well taken because I do agree. And as you say it to me, burying your head in the sand because it's scary and you have your fears about it doesn't solve anything.
It doesn't help you either.
It doesn't help me.
Your future self, even what would your future self say? Think about your future self.
Right. And so it's a reality that you have to engage with and you have to find a way to have it serve you rather than having it control you.
And it also means you don't need to act on it right away. It means going to events, like finding local events in your area or going to conferences and literally just be a sponge.
Yeah.
Suck it up. And you might literally suck it up and suck it up the information. And again, then things will pop up. You'll be like, ooh, I didn't like that. Or, oh, this was exactly what I was saying. Oh, I hated this. And you might be surprised. Ooh, I like the community. Oh, this popped up and I'm kind of interested. All right. I didn't realize that. Yeah. You don't know what you don't know.
Your comparison to politics is actually pretty apt in that you don't have to agree with or even like the process, but sitting on the sidelines and complaining about it doesn't serve you. So even if you don't like it, but getting involved, being more educated about it allows you to be a part of that process to make the change that you want to see. Exactly.
If you're going to complain and not be part of it, sorry, that's what you're going to get. Yeah. But if you're in it, and then what a purpose, that also brings up purpose. It energizes you, right? Instead of, again, complaining about things you can't control versus going in it, meeting people. And guess what? A lot of times they might say, ooh, I love your experience. We could use that. Yeah. Or I'm doing something. And then before you know it, you are that actor amongst your friends or musician or whatever that is doing stuff and they're all saying like, what? And you go, well, there's opportunities.
Yeah.
I don't know what's 10 years ahead, but again, you can't create tomorrow without today.
I like that.
And then on that note,
Yeah.
Well, I actually had like two anecdotal experiences recently that kind of, to me, played out the two sides of the coin of what we're talking about on a very micro level. One friend I was having a conversation with about how she is kind of ADHD. I don't know if she ever had a diagnosis, but she relates to herself in that way. And she refers to her thoughts as squirrels. And they just
God, my friend calls me a squirrel. Nickname squirrel. I love that.
So she's like, well, I have the squirrels, right now it's like, this is running over here and oh, squirrel. And this is over here. Oh, squirrel. And it's hard to get things done when you're in that place. And she's like, but since I started engaging with ChatGPT, I just kind of type all my squirrels in and it like organizes everything for me. And I'm able to, I know what I need to do. It actually gives me clarity. And I was like, I hadn't thought about it because of somebody that is a control freak like me. The idea of giving autonomy over to a machine that's telling me what to do or controlling me in some way is something I reject right out of the gate.
It's not really controlling you. It's just giving you it's like a coach, or it's giving you advice. Like you get to
choose to follow it or not. Yeah.
Well, exactly. And so, but it hadn't occurred to me because my initial gut reaction of my defensiveness is to reject it. Whereas for somebody else, it might be a really positive thing right out of the gate in terms of like, I don't even need to pay a therapist. I don't even need to go through years of trying to reprogram the way that I process information. This is immediate. This can help me actually today do something that I couldn't do without it.
Yeah.
But then I had this other friend who said that she's fully engaged with AI, and she basically just like, when she has any question about anything, she puts all the information in it and knows her very well, and it gives her advice. And she's like, it probably knows better than me. And I just do what
That's a bit of an over-reliance, because like I started doing that, and then I started realizing like, wait, am I just doing it because it said it? Or do I actually like what would be this caption? Mm-hmm. Or like if it's helping me with some writing or this or that. Like there's a bit of that line of, is it your voice? Is it that? Do you even know what you want? Are you, relying on it too much? What I would say though, what you keep saying, just as little, you're talking about other people's experience with it. How can you create an opinion unless you've worked with it and played with it?
I mean, it's been very limited. I've gone on there like twice.
And again, it's really up to you and your choice. Yeah. But again, most people, and when you talk to other creatives, when I even interview them, they say, other people, a lot of times the people that are naysayers, I say like, how much have you actually played around with it and done anything? They'll be like, well, not. And then when they do, they start saying, I could see the benefit. I kind of like it. This, that. It doesn't mean your opinions about it change, like how it's stealing from artists and all that. It just means that, okay, I could better understand it so I can have a better argument around it too, to create a better space.
For sure.
So, I think with all of that, thought partner, as I like to say, for me, I vent to it to talk through things and process. And then a lot of times I'll hit a wall being like, all right, I'm talking to it. I'm getting a headache of myself. And then I'm able to step back. That would be in my head a lot. For getting it out of your head helps, as you know, right? It could be like journaling in a way, or verbally sharing. That is helpful and validating a lot of times, although it's been shown to validate too much. That doesn't help. With captions and writing and pitches and so many things that I would need help and need to ask people to help me. And a lot of times that would take my power away. You'd be like, and then I guess you'll become a partner in this because you're helping me write a outline for it. And it's like, no, but it's my idea. I'm actually doing most of the work. And now I just get to own it and move it forward myself and then bring the right people in when it matters. So I just think that it's really cool.
Yeah. All right. I'm sold.
No, I agree that like you say, there's a lot of sideline quarterbacking here of like, well, this is terrible and look what they're doing. But if you're not in the game and you're not trying to move the technology forward yourself and learn it and know what its capabilities are, its limitations are, the dangers are, then maybe you're not getting the whole picture. So
exactly.
I think that's an important message.
That's a lesson.
I take that argument, and I think it's true to form for me in terms of I need to educate myself more and engage with it more. And even if it is just forming a stronger opinion based around the experience that comes with engaging with something. I mean, I could make an argument against it at the same time, but there's so many ways so many avenues we can go to. I feel like we're just like scratching the surface on so many of these things, but these are conversations that we're going to continue to have. And again, if you're not engaged, then you're on the sidelines, and like it or not, this is the way the world is going. And so that's the takeaway for me. I'm curious though, just to wrap things up, like how you're doing in general, like how
I thought I shared a bit. I was like, I'm kidding. No, I have so many amazing things like going on in my life. And then there's definitely moments of quiet and space where things catch up with me, and then I start questioning things and anxiety comes up. I tend to run fast because probably it allows me to not overthink what's happening or where my brain goes. So for me, that's a constant journey. But there's a lot happening and it's exciting. It's also, scary and nerve-wracking time too. So for me, it's about constantly saying, what can I do today to move things forward that's in my control? And then how do I make sure to be, again, thinking about the things that I really like and enjoy. And, sometimes, for me, it's sleeping in the morning. I don't have kids yet. Being with my dog, going outside, like really sucking up those moments and trying to create more of those. And even if I don't have those, also not taking the moments that I have for granted, and especially I think with work, I always have more I want to do and on so many levels. But then I also think about the moments like I've had so many down moments in my work that weren't busy, being in this space. So that I think over the years, having those times where you weren't being asked to be on stage with people and speak and collaborate, right? Then you do have gratitude for the moments you are quote unquote busy.
Yeah.
Right? Or there's some sort of momentum, even though you're not sure where it's going. You need to don't take that for granted. At least for me, that's how I feel. So in the times that I feel like, well, I'm not, I'm busy and I'm traveling a lot. I get back to the moment and think, oh, it's so cool. Like I get to land in this cool city, or I'm in this cool hotel tonight with this view. And I just try to suck it up. Even if in those moments I'm not with my dog and sleeping in and outside, hiking or rolling around in the grass.
Well, I love the concept of you can't have tomorrow without today. You said it so well. And that applies not only to technology and advancement, but in being in the moment.
Yeah, I think that's for me, the lesson is constantly coming back to the moment. And so, I'm grateful for it all, while knowing I don't know where it's all going. So doing what I can right now.
Yeah, enjoy
and that's it. And that's how I'm doing.
Yeah,
I guess. But a lot of exciting things. Yeah, and I'm appreciative for being here and for the coffee and the water.
We're hosts.
We're a full service podcast.
And yes, and go check out Creator Care. Continuing to work on that. CreatorCare.co. Follow at Creators 4 Mental Health for what we're up to, and if you want to collaborate. And check me out too. I have a newsletter. I'm always keeping you updated on the stuff we spoke about, then also tech in a conscious way and making it fun and human. So that's that.
Well, I see. I told you we would end on a nice positive note.
It's true. We got back there.
Well, Shira, thank you so much for your time and for this conversation. It has been very enlightening, and I apologize if I'm, crunchy on the topic of tech. And you had to deal with
I love it. Like, we're not supposed to always agree. That's boring, and this is real. You're bringing up real things that a lot of people think about.
Well, that's the thing. It's like we want to engage with the things that people are actually dealing with and not just platitudes. And so these conversations are really helpful to think about, if there are problems, how do we fix them? How do we engage with them? How do we work through them?
Exactly. And sometimes it can be overwhelming. So again, it starts with you and day to day, what you do with your actions, your relationship with self. And then from there, you could extend it beyond you. And then, is there something in your community? Is there a company? Back. Is there this? But sometimes when you think about that whole thing, you're not going to take any steps. So baby steps.
All right. Well, thank you again. This has been great. Appreciate your time.
Should we just keep on thanking each other and ending it? Like, no, but thank you.
I'm going to see myself out. You guys just Too much gratitude in this room. Jesus.
How long? That's like an SNL sketch of like ending a podcast and how many ends can you do?
It's like the Minnesota goodbye. I think it's
really,
called.
but what you thought about that was really interesting.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Off. Shira Lazar has been our guest on this episode of the Hard to Breathe podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have new episodes that drop every Tuesday. We appreciate you. Join us next time right here on the Harder to Breathe podcast.